This is the new iPad Air 5th Gen which Apple updated recently in their spring event. It might look similar to the previous gen, but it's a big upgrade and I have a lot to share about it. I also answer the question if you should buy this iPad Air at the end of this video. So please stick around until the end. Before we get to the iPad itself, let's talk about the packaging first. You get to know your iPad color based on the iPad Air text on the side, which matches your iPad. I got the pink one. Packaging is well made and unboxing feels like a premium device. Other than the iPad itself, you get a paperwork, Apple sticker, a 20-watt power adapter, and a USB-C cable. The model I got is a pink 64GB storage, Wi-Fi only model. I really wanted the 256GB model, but it costs an extra $150, which makes the iPad $750. The model I got costs $599. You can also buy the Apple Pencil for $129 and a smart keyboard for $299, but I just got the iPad alone. $299 for an iPad keyboard is very expensive. I have this Logitech compact Bluetooth keyboard which I can use with the iPad as well. I'll buy a case separately to use it as a stand. The iPad is super slim at 6mm, but at the same time rigid and feels sturdy in the hand. It's pretty light to carry as well. The screen is 10.9 inches diagonal. It has a power button on top, volume rocker on the sides, a single 12-megapixel camera on the back, a 12-megapixel ultra-wide front-facing camera in the front. It also has USB-C connector at the bottom, speaker grills on the top and bottom, microphone on the top and back, and a magnetic connector for Apple Pencil, smart connector on the back for keyboards, and a SIM card slot if you get the cellular model. The power button on the top is also a fingerprint sensor, which you can use for unlocking the iPad and for payments. The iPad Air does not contain the Face ID as seen in iPhones and iPad Pro, but the fingerprint sensor is fast and is on the top for easily unlocking the device. The bezels are slim and look very good. The bezels on the iPad Pro are even slimmer, but the iPad Air is not bad either, and you won't notice a big difference unless you put them side to side. The display is a 10.9-inch LED panel and is really good. At 264 pixels per inch, the screen is very sharp and the text looks amazing. It's also quite bright and can easily be viewed outdoors. The iPad Pro display is much brighter and has 120Hz display, but for the price, the iPad Air screen doesn't disappoint. It's also a fully laminated display, meaning there is less gap between the panel and the top glass, so the text and videos appear like it's on the surface. The budget iPad doesn't have this laminated display and it makes a huge difference. I recommend ditching the budget iPad for this reason alone. The iPad Air has anti-reflective and fingerprint resistant coating. It also has a true tone display, meaning the iPad display will adjust the color temperature according to the surrounding light. The display is also compatible with Apple Pencil 2 if you're looking to use one. A few things you should know about the iPad Air display when compared to the iPad Pro display is that the iPad Pro 12.9-inch has a mini LED panel which has a much higher contrast ratio, so HDR content will look even better. The iPad Pros also have a 120Hz ProMotion display. The iPad Air has a standard 60Hz display, so the iPad Pro display feels much snappier and faster. The Pro models also have higher max brightness, so if you use iPad more out in the sun or bright environment, iPad Pro can be better for you. Inside the iPad Air is the big upgrade this year. Usually the budget iPad, iPad mini, and the iPad Air uses the same processor as iPhone, the A series chips. And the iPad Pro models have more powerful desktop class M1 chips. This year, iPad Air has gotten the M1 chips. Even the 13-inch MacBook Pro has M1 chips in them, meaning the iPad Air is now as powerful as the iPad Pros and MacBook Airs and Mac Minis. This is a huge deal for a couple of reasons. First, it can handle any workload easily and you don't have to worry about getting lower performance from a lower priced iPad. Second, since the processor is so powerful, this iPad Air should be good for a few years down the road. You don't have to worry about replacing it because it's not fast enough in the near future. Also, because of the M1 processor, you should be getting your OS updates at least for a few years. It comes with 8GB RAM. Even 4K editing, Lightroom, and Photoshop editing is possible on the iPad Air now. The back camera is a 12-megapixel camera. It's the same camera from the previous generation and it does not have a flash. The camera quality is okay, but not like the iPhone's 12-megapixel camera. These are some shots taken on the 12-megapixel back camera in various lighting conditions. You can see the photos and compare them yourself to get an idea. The iPad Pro has the same main camera, but it also has an additional ultra-wide camera, a flash, and a LiDAR scanner. In general, I would say the camera is average storage, and I would simply use my iPhone to take pictures. The front-facing camera on the other hand got an upgrade from last year. Now it's a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera. There is a 2x zoom option too. The front camera also supports center stage, which is a neat little feature which tracks you during a FaceTime call or video. This has been really useful if we set the iPad on a counter and we can walk freely while the camera follows us. Sometimes it has issues detecting properly, but when it works, we love it. There are two microphones on the iPad Air, one at the top and one at the back. Here's a sample audio from the microphones and sample video from the front-facing camera. Hi guys, this is the video and audio recorded on my iPad Air. The iPad Air has dual speakers, one on the top and one on the bottom. The speaker quality is very good. The volume is also decent. Here's a sample of the audio from iPad Air speakers at max volume. The iPad Pro has 4 speakers unlike 2 in the iPad Air, and it sounds much better both in terms of quality and volume. But the iPad Air speakers are very good for their price and no complaints as well. The iPad Air has USB-C 3.1 port at the bottom for data transfer and charging, which means you can connect the iPad Air to a 6K external monitor too. USB 3.1 port also means you can transfer data up to 10 gigabits per second. Note that the iPad Pro models have a Thunderbolt port instead of a USB 3.1, meaning the iPad Pro can get data transfer rates up to 40 gigabits per second. But 10 gigabits per second is sufficient for most common workloads. You can attach an external monitor, SSD drive, SD card, etc. directly and work from your iPad. The iPad battery will stay for 9 to 10 hours of average workload like web browsing and video playback at average brightness. This is the same battery life as the previous model, which isn't a bad thing because compared to other tablets in the market, the iPad has one of the best battery life. And the standby time on this iPad is also great. Battery life will not be a concern on this iPad. Finally, the OS. iPad OS 15 is what comes with the iPad Air. With iPad OS 15, the iPad is more productive now. It's not just a big phone anymore. There are apps specifically for the iPad Air which can utilize Apple Pencil support, type whole document on the iPad, which all makes iPad with iPad OS 15 really a useful investment. There is a mouse support, external monitor support, and a good file browser support too. Quick notes, multitasking, app switcher all makes the iPad a great computing device, and you can even replace a laptop or PC for an iPad. The iPad Air comes in 5 colors and in Wi-Fi only or cellular model. It starts at $599 for a Wi-Fi only 64GB model or $750 for a Wi-Fi only 256GB model. iPad Air now also has 5G support. So if you get the cellular model, which starts at $750 for 64GB, you can get 5G connectivity on the go as well. Finally, should you get this iPad? Well, in a short answer, yes. I have been using it for a few days now and have been absolutely loving it. There are 3 other iPad choices: the budget iPad, iPad mini, and iPad Pros. There are a few people for whom the budget iPad or even the Pro models could be a better option, but I think for most people the iPad Air is the best choice. I made a video a few months ago to skip the iPad Air and get the Pro since the price difference was very less while the Pro offered more features. But with M1 processor in the iPad Air, the Air is a much more promising device and you will not feel the need to upgrade anytime soon. I wish they had a starting storage option of at least 128GB, but whatever. Anyways, a subscription to the channel would be very encouraging. Which iPad best suits for you? Let me know in the comments below. See you in the next one. This is Anjana. Bye bye.